Everybody, welcome back to another episode of DFS Fantasy NASCAR Picks. I'm your host, Rower 31, and we've got the Nashville race here for a Sunday night race. So, truck race did well. Xfinity pretty much gave it back. What a mess that Xfinity race was. I think they were the caution like 3 or 4 laps in for a wreck. And I don't know if it's the track was hot or fast, or they're being too aggressive, or just bad driving, bad decisions, but man, I think it was like 10 cautions in the first 90 laps, and then went for like a long, like 80 some lap run before they had another caution. So, anyways, a lot of good cars got taken out. Congratulations to those who cashed and won money. Just some of the guys are on that I like just didn't perform as well as they wanted to, and on to the next slate. So, did we learn anything for Cup? It's a different car, it's a different tire, it's the same track with different conditions because they start racing at like 3 in the afternoon. It's going to be, I don't know what time zone Nashville is in, if it's in Central or if it's in Eastern. But anyways, I mean, it's not on the East Coast. It's, a little bit inland a bit. So, I think the track's going to start out like hot and fast. The temperatures would be look like in the 80s or 90s, maybe a little bit of rain in the morning, but it should be gone by race time. So it shouldn't be any problem there. If the weather holds up. So we'll have to see. And if it was 5 years ago, a hot and fast track, give me Truex. And then, if it cools off into night, and then, give me Harvick. But again, different car, different tire, different time. Drivers have aged a little bit. So, well, we'll just look through this slate here. It's great. At least, this is in the speculation video. We have the starting lineup. We have practice data, and, they've qualified. So jump into it. We're going to, I don't know why it says Richmond 23 here. This should be type average. So, we got a couple data points to look at. They've raced at this track a couple times here. Most of the guys, not like Xfinity and the Truck Series, where a lot of them had never even seen this track before or a comparable track or anything. So, I think we've got some decent data here. So, processing on the poll. I think he's going to be highly owned. I think he's a prime play. I think he'll go out there. I think he'll dominate. I think he'll lead a lot of laps. It just seems like the type of race where he can just go out there and do his thing and not get into trouble because he's the one that's out there in front. So I think he'll bode well. I think Reddick will also get a lot of ownership also. Chastain started 7th and finished 5th last time out. Reddick, he wasn't in this car, but Kurt Busch in this car finished 2nd last time out here and had a good race. Started 19th, and they did a really good job putting him in a good position to finish 2nd here. Reddick finished. I can't find him. That's a good sign. The heck is Tyler Reddick? Oh, here he is. Started 16th, finished 18th. So an average day, but he looked good in practice here. And, on the different, this would be, take that out. Because we don't have, there's not really tire wear here, so don't really need to look at that. It's probably just mirroring the practice data anyways here. So Reddick, 3rd overall composite. If you look at all the ranking of the different average ranking positions and stuff on tracks like this. So, and 1st in practice. So I think he's definitely in play here, but I think he's going to play him as a GPP. Justin Haley, I don't know how he qualified this well, unless they just had the car set up for like short run speed here, because in practice he was like 28th, and he hasn't really shown anything great speed wise on these tracks. He actually comes and ranks 30th, so he's gonna be a fade for me. I think he's just ran an amazing lap, but I don't think he can duplicate it. I think he's just going to go backwards. He's not going to hold his position. Logano's been struggling this season. I mean, he's had some bright spots, but doesn't do well in dirty air. He was 17th in practice. Again, he qualified well here. his numbers are decent, but it looks like 15th overall finish usually in tracks like this. So, he's going to do GPP for me. If he beats me, he beats me, but I think there's so many other good plays. The Hendricks cars dominated the first two races here. Larson won the first one. Elliott won the second one. Larson was fourth. So Byron's had a lot of success. Again, we've talked about how he didn't do well at Nashville last year. Here he and Bowman finished last and second to last. I can't remember if they took each other out in a crash or what happened there. Or if this was the race where some of the Hendricks cars had like similar issues, but obviously two of them finished in the top four, so that wasn't something there. But Byron's had a very strong season. It's just sometimes during the race he starts off strong and fades towards the end, but as the track cools down, maybe that's going to help him here. Fifth in practice, I think it'll be highly owned. I think in cash is definitely someone to consider because, like I said, the Hendricks cars have had a lot of success here in the 2 years that they've run so far. Martin Truex Jr., I'm going to give him the prime play here. He's second fastest in practice. He looked really good here with the average running position last year. Didn't get the finish that we were looking for, but most of the day he was up in the top 10. I can't remember if it was a tire issue or speeding on a pit road, but something happened. But definitely I think people look back at their finish and not play him. Look at Nashville 21 where he had an average running position of 20th, but overall he's number one in all the composite average and tracks that are similar to this, which would be not too many of them, but I looked at concrete. I looked at ones with like a little bit of banking that run faster. It's a 1.33. It's not exactly a mile and a half. It's not a short track, but and it's a concrete. So Dover, Darlington to a little bit. So within the formula, he came out number one here. So definitely going to list him as a prime play. I think he's the second dominator that I want here. Kyle Larson, I can't argue if you would rather play him over Truex or if you can try to get all three, Chastain, Truex, and Larson in the same line here. He's just done really well in these tracks, even though his numbers come back at 9, 14th in practice. But I think a lot of people are going to be off him just because he's got a high price tag and he's going to have to get up there and dominate and lead laps to be able to pay it off. So I think people will be hesitant to play him in cash. I think actually people will gravitate towards the guy that's right behind him here in Denny Hamlin, who looked much better in practice and finished sixth last year here, started on the pole, ran most of the race, up in the lead, but then, just didn't have it at the end to seal the deal. And I think this might be the time where he comes back and does that. So again, so if you can Chastain and Truex, if you can get Larson in there, if you need some savings, I think Hamlin is also an outstanding play. Bubba Wallace, he looked really good in practice. He looked really good here. It seems like most of the Toyotas have. So, if you want to play him at 8,400, that instead of like Larson or Hamlin, that might open up a more balanced lineup for you instead of playing like three upper guys and then having to play three scrubs. But there are some decent guys that are starting under 6K towards the back of the field that will have good place differential potential and not make you want to throw up in your mouth. So Bubba's definitely in play. Daniel Suarez, I don't think so. He's just hasn't had it this year. Is this the one where he snaps out of it and it does well? Potentially, but I'm going to wait to see till I hit. I don't fear being late to the party on Daniel Suarez. You can play him if it works, but starting 10th here, I just don't think he can probably finish in the top 15. I don't know if he can finish in the top 10. I don't think he has upside. I don't see him going out dominating this race with the other guys that are really good here. So I'm out on him. Kyle Busch finished last year here. He started 36th, dead last, so he's probably massive chalk, and he finished 21st. And I think there was a problem or whatever in practice qualifying, and this was started the downward spiral, I think, of him and Gibbs, where it seems like they were sabotaging the car each week, so he wouldn't do well. And so maybe I can look past that. But if I looked at his average running position, just versus like his finishing position, it's been in the top 10. So I think you can play him, but he's the second most expensive guy in the field here. So he's GPP only. He'll be always the first guy on my GPP lineup, but I don't believe I can play him in cash. But I do think he'll have some ownership here, seeing that he's outside the top 10. There's a little bit of place differential, and he could dominate here potentially. Chris Buescher, I think, is kind of sandwiched in between some really good drivers here. But probably be low owned, 9th in practice, but it's horrible in the first national race. Second national race was decent, like composite 13. So, if he finishes where he starts, I think he's okay, but I don't see him falling into the optimal lineup at all. So I'm out on him at 7,500 in this price range. I think I'd rather drop down to like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for 200 less. That has so much more place differential upside and has a floor, because if he does wreck out early, then he's not going to lose you as many places as Buescher would if he has a catastrophic event in his car. Blaney, again, GPP here. I don't think it's necessarily his track style. First national race was horrible. It's been good on this track type, and it was good here last year. If he finished third, he started 6th. It looks like he spent most of the race in the top 10. So I think there's potential here, some place differential. So borderline cash play, but I think, if I play 200 more for maybe like Byron here, or I just find the $500 to play Elliott, who's right behind him, who has a win here, who has done well here, 5th overall in composite among all these drivers, with considering like the track style and everything, 8th in practice. So, and he hasn't had come back from the injury. I think this is about the time where you might start to get back into form. So, really like him here. Again, if I land on Blaney, that's fine as last guy in for cash, but Chase Elliott, I think, would make more of a priority. If I was around that range, I'd see if I could find the $500 more, because I think it's a much better play. Bowman, he's the one Hendrick's car. If I was doing a Hendrick stack, I'd take Elliott, I'd take Larson, and I'd take Byron. And there's plenty of value guys to mix in to make a decent lineup that, again, doesn't make you want to throw up in your mouth. But I think I'd leave Bowman out of it. I mean, 82, you could probably get him in there, but you're probably going to end up playing like a Rick Ware car or so. Not going to love your lineup. But he's just he's been okay this year, but he struggled at the first national race was okay. Last year, again, he had his issues here. And even practice, he was like 25th, didn't really show a ton. Overall, like composite, it's like 26. So I just don't think this is the right track for him. I know he's the one that just kind of hangs around out of nowhere, like towards the end of the race. Like you see him like in 7th position and be okay, where he come from. If he does it this week, fine, so be it. I'd rather pay $200 more to play Bubba Wallace here. They're definitely just seeing how Bubba did in practice, and just his numbers are just so much better than Bowman's at this point. Ty Gibbs, he was supposed to run the Xfinity race to get some more experience on this track to kind of help him with this, and that didn't go so well. He ended up wrecking pretty early in the race and was out. So 11th in practice, like I said, all the Toyotas were pretty good here. Didn't qualify as well. Actually ran really well here in the Xfinity race last year, but not he didn't run the Cup one. So his numbers just with his Xfinity data mixed in put him in 10th overall, but I think that's kind of skewed. So he's going to GPP for me. Harvick is a GPP here, but he might be a borderline cash play. Again, I don't think I'm going to flip him to that because I don't have a ton of cash plays on the board. I like the starting position. I think he's got upside, especially, he might struggle early on, but I think he'll get it dialed in towards the end. He does well when it turns to night races. here. If you look at his composite average on the track type and everything, I know it comes out as 12th overall, but the numbers like just show top 10. Last year he started 8th, he finished 10th, so definitely think he has top 10 upside here. 8,800 is not a bad price for him, so like some Kevin Harvick. Chase Briscoe, I like him more on like tracks where you have to shift a lot and stuff, and I don't think you have to do a ton of that on this track. It's not a super technical track. 31st in practice, looked really bad here. Finished started 28th, finished 34th last year. The first race he was a little bit better than that, but I just the track overall average is like 21st, so I don't style, so I'm not going to be playing some Chase Briscoe unless I land on him in a GPP as last man in. AJ Allmendinger did really well in the Xfinity, dropped down, won the race, had a really good car. Collie really seemed to have figured out Xfinity. Will that transfer up to Cup? Who knows? But I like the starting position at 19th. He was 10th in practice. Last year, did he run up here? Yes, he did. He was in the same car. He started 14th. He finished 19th. Got up to 5th got up to 3rd at one point. So I think that he's definitely somebody you can consider here. 6,500. I think he'll be highly owned after his success in Xfinity. Brad Keselowski, I think, has been in decent form also recently, but if guys been starting this range, like you're saying $1,500 goal to Allmendinger, but if you land on Keselowski as the last guy in, I'd still try to find the 400 for Wallace to play him, but Brad's not a bad play here. Eric Almirola at GPP started 11th last year, finished 17th. Nothing really jumped out number wise. 23rd in practice, like ran really well here in the first Nashville race, but other than that, I know he's good at like short flat tracks, but this isn't like flat. There is like a 14-degree banking on it. So GPP for Almirola. GPP for Bell too. Like he's just not been in great form recently. 18th in practice, didn't look as good as the other Toyotas, didn't qualify as well. Did start 9th, finish 8th, so he pretty much finished where he started, held his position. Obviously he's not a 22nd place car, so I think he'll have some high ownership here at 94 because there is some place differential. So I think he's a great GPP play here, because there's a lot of upside, but I just don't know what the floor is at 94. Just with just what I've seen in practice and qualifying on him. Eric Jones, I think, will be super high owned here. Starting 23rd, like 4th in practice. He's just hasn't had the speed this year. This whole Legacy Motor Club has had breakdowns and issues, but if the car holds up at 62, I think it'll be very popular as like one of the punts that people put in their cash lineup to try to get 3 of these higher priced drivers in, and 6,200 is a great price to make that work. Austin Cindric, it just hasn't been a great year for him. 30th in practice, a GPP for me. Last year, he finished. Actually, he didn't do bad. He started 24th and ended up finishing 7th in this race. So maybe there's some potential here. So I keep that in mind in GPPs. So I'm not saying he's a fade. He's one to keep in the consideration. Man, like I said, I don't really have too many cash plays, and I think he's starting far enough down. Okay, talk me into it. Change him to a cash play. I think it'd be very low. So this is a borderline cash play GPP, but that's just somebody to keep your eye on it if you need some value in your lineup. Priest, I'm not interested in. GPP, rather play Cindric. You're saving money there. Austin Dillon, I just don't play Austin Dillon. I think he might be maybe medium to high owned just because people think he's a good driver and way overplay him. But he just has been so disappointing. And if his father wasn't who his father was, I don't think he'd be in the Cup car much longer. Started 20th last year, finished 14th. I mean, there is some upside here potentially. I mean, the Richard Childress cars are outstanding, but I just don't see um, a need to play him here. I'd rather take Eric Jones, I think, just who was fourth in practice and look like he had some speed and things figured out more. Todd Gillian gets back in the 38. I mean, he's always been a cheap punt, but he's starting 27th. We usually like Todd Gillian when we start in the 30th. So GPP for me. Ricky Stenhouse, I think he'll be popular also. He's been up there and racing. But there's actually a statistic on Twitter that he has the most DNFs in like the last 3 or 4 years or something. So TK actually hit me up on Twitter with that fact, because we always would, our group on Discord where we used to talk NASCAR is called Rookie Spin House, and he was like, his car was like the avatar for it. And my response back to TK was like, the only reason that Ricky Stenhouse owns the record for the most DNFs in the Cup is because Joe Gaff Jr., who's always wrecks in Xfinity, hasn't made it to the Cup Series yet. So again, 73, I think it's a steep price. Again, I think he'll be popular, medium, maybe even to high, just because they look at the name and think he's better than some of the other cars down here, and it has some upside. And he is aggressive, so I think he's great for GPP. I wouldn't play him cash. Yaley's starting too far forward. Fade for me there. Gregson's coming back from the concussion from the really bad wreck. He missed the last race here. I think Hocevar filled in for him. But I want to see how he does for a couple races, make sure he's back and well. His numbers here are from Xfinity, they're not from Cup, so don't think he's like lightning in a bottle or anything here. Harrison Burton, always a fade for me, but he's starting so far down here. His floor has been a little bit better recently. And I think, if you look at his Nashville 21 numbers from Xfinity, so you can't look at that. Last year, he wasn't absolutely horrible here. Where did he end up? Harrison Burton started 26th, finished 25th. So, maybe he's got like 5 place differential points here, 5,500 if you're trying to get a lot of more expensive drivers, and I think he's fine. Pool's a fade. I don't trust the car. Michael McDowell, I think, will be uber chalk here as a punt play, 5,800. I debated between he and Corey LaJoie for the prime play. And McDowell's actually been in decent form recently. He was 12th in practice, so obviously he just like messed up on the qualifying run. But all the metrics say that he's a top 15 driver, so that's about 15 to maybe even 20 place differential points for him. So I definitely think that he's somebody that you can probably lock in your cash lineups. He might be like the 4th prime play. So if you start out with Chastain, Truex, LaJoie, and then throw McDonald, I think that gives you like 8,800 or 90. It gives you a decent amount of money for your final 2 drivers to take two mid-range guys, or to take another 10K guy and then find another 6 or 7K value guy to fill in to round out your lineup. Dylan, I don't play either. I have him as a GPP just because like the car is better than some of the other ones down here. But again, not much here. Josh Buglicki on a BJ McLeod car. It's no, there's no way on God's green earth that he's going to end up finishing on the lead lap. So if I could bet that, I would put money down that Josh Buglicki does not finish on the lead lap in this race. And then Corey LaJoie was 24th in practice, and his numbers say that he should be a top 25 driver. I don't think he can get up to the top 20, but I mean, maybe his ceiling's about 20, but he's not a 36th place driver. He should be able to get past at least 10 or 11 cars. So definitely some place differential there. So that's how I'm attacking. I think I'm going to trust Chastain. If you don't trust him, that's fine. Then, take Truex and figure out what other guy, like, I don't think you need like an early leader, because we did see the cream rise pretty fast in the other 2 series where, some of the guys were up there and led some laps, but then, they were overtaken by some of the better drivers. So I think Haley falls back. Reddick, I mean, they don't have like a super high groove here. There's 2 grooves and more in the middle of the track. It's not towards the wall, so I don't think he's successful. Logano struggled in dirty air, so I just see either like Byron or Truex or Larson or Hamlin. getting up past her. Bubba should progress a little bit. And so, that's how I really, if you don't want to take Chastain, then those are the ones to really focus on. I think, down the road after pit stops and everything, like Truex that's the only thing that worries about me, is he's like shot himself in the foot. Not as much as Kyle Busch. He just seems to just have so much bad luck on pit stops, whether it be speeding or different things happening and just losing positions. That Chase Elliott just solidly in play also. But then, like I said, down here, lots of great plays, and Eric Jones, Cindric, McDowell, Corey LaJoie. There's enough guys that are solid cars with place differential that should be able to move up better than Kyle and Mosaic. He was in 36 in Xfinity, and he rose up, and then he got in a wreck early on and only scored like 9 points. At least it wasn't a negative. So, but I'm just, hopefully, it's a decent race on a Sunday night that you can just like settle down and put the kids to bed early, and just be able to watch a decent cup race that has some passing and that's compelling, and it's not a demolition derby like the Xfinity one. The track race was pretty good. There were some accidents, but they were 3 wide at some points, and it wasn't like some of these races where somebody just runs away with it and then you just shut it off because nobody's ever going to catch them, and it's just like a snooze fest. So appreciate you watching. Next week, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. Had a couple of requests for F1 content, so next week's the Chicago race, and there's really no data. Like, I can look at road course stuff. I can, I'll do the best I can to see if I can get. I think I've got a better chance of getting a cup video out than an Xfinity one, because maybe after I watch the Xfinity race, it'll give me a kind of an idea. But I just fear it's going to be kind of like the first Bristol dirt race, where it was just an absolute disaster until the guys started to figure it out. Or I think it was maybe the first Indianapolis road course one, where they went the first turn in in the Xfinity series, and like all the cars like fanned out every place and they all missed the turn. It was an absolute disaster, and Denny Hamlin tweeted out, because he had the poll, "I apologize to all the guys that are going to follow me into turn 1 on Sunday, because God only knows what's going to happen." So yeah, I think that's what happened. One of my coworkers I've mentioned that does pretty well with NASCAR, Richie. He has this theory that a passenger car is somehow going to take a wrong turn and end up on the course for the road course, or just something like screwy is going to happen. So but hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it's safe. Hopefully there's no major property damage or casualties or anything like that. You think NASCAR has spent a lot of time and engineered it right and has it all figured out, and the safety and all the aspects of it. But for DFS purposes, it's just going to be such a wild card, almost like the All-Star races or Daytona or like a plate race or things like that. So I will do my best to try to see if I can come up with content to walk you through it. If not, like I said, maybe I'll dive into F1 and throw out a video and see how many watches I get for that. But just appreciate everybody watching these videos. So hopefully they helped you this weekend. Sorry that there was no sound in the truck video once again, but I made up for it. I threw out a link to the finalized sheet for you. So, and that's the thing too, just check back on these videos if like it looks like screwy things coming or news or like driver switch or something, and chances are somebody else has asked a question about it, and my answers to their questions could definitely help you, because you might have the same question. Or feel free to drop questions in the chat here for this video. I try to, as soon as I see the notification on my phone, I try to dig in, check them periodically to try to get answers to you to help you with your lineups. Again, I can't approve full lineups, so please don't put all 6 players that you're playing and ask me if it's a good lineup or not, because DK doesn't let us do that. But if you have like pretty much some guys and you're like debating like last guy in or a couple between like 2 or 3 guys, and that's perfectly fine. So again, thanks for watching. If these videos do help you, please like the video, subscribe to our channel so you know the videos are coming out and can see all the other content that we have, and share with your friends. You can send them links via like text or social media or all kinds of different things, so that they know that, you know, we have some pretty cool videos and are trying to help people out with NASCAR DFS. And if you want more information on FSI DFS, you can go into the description of the video and you can sign up for a package. It is so cheap. It's because it's a night race. Like if you sign up like tomorrow afternoon after like 5 p.m. because I think the Chicago race is going to be in the afternoon. Like after the Chicago race will lock, then it will give you for your $5 the content for Sunday's race, and then you'll get like everything for next weekend, because you're not signing up for like a weekend package for it. It's a physical week. So I mean, that's the way to get the most for your money for FSI, is to go and, you know, if there's a later race during some period, if you go, you can actually benefit from getting 2 weeks worth of content for it. So, and it really helps in races like we had this week with trucks and with Xfinity, where I had to do speculation videos, but then I post after qualifying, and we have the accurate picture, because a lot did change with Xfinity. There was a lot of good cars that didn't qualify well, and they were should have been pretty good plays if the race played out normally and there wasn't like a demolition derby. So anyways, rambled enough. Appreciate you watching. You know how to get a hold of me if you have questions. Put them in the comments below. Hit me at MegaRuler31 on Twitter. So hope everyone has a great weekend. And again, check back to the channel, see if I was brave enough to put out some content for the road races in Chicago. If not, I believe it's Atlanta after that. I'll definitely have some content for there. So thanks for watching. I'm MegaRuler31, and I'll see you next time.